Hi, it's Tanja and welcome to our class. Today we're going to be looking at a sciatica session and focusing on mobilizing the lower spine a little bit. So in the lower spine a little bit. So often people get very wary of moving their spine when they've got sciatica, but actually what we need to do is get that spine moving in all directions if we can, so that if you have got any slipped discs or anything, or there's an impingement of the nerve, getting that spine moving can help free it up. Although sometimes like I said, people can get quite wary. So when you impinge on a nerve, there's going to be pain. And so often people relate pain to injury. And it's not really an injury, it's just that the bones, if it is coming from the spine, they impinge in the nerve. So if you can free up those bones, it can almost like release that nerve. And again, if it's a pseudo-sciatica or piriformis syndrome, stretching off the muscles can release that. So, but the caveat is, we don't want to work to pain. So yes, if you have got sciatica, see how it feels. The pain hopefully will settle after 10 seconds, but for some people it doesn't. So if you're in any position and the pain is increasing and it's not settling for longer than 10 seconds, then come out of it and find that point where the pain reduces a little bit. Like I said, because you're impinging on a nerve, there's going to be some kind of discomfort for you. So that is about the class today. Now, we are going to be on hands and knees. So for those of you that just can't do hands and knees, I actually want to show you a little trick that might work for you. It doesn't work for everybody. So you could kneel on a cushion if you have this slight discomfort in the knee. We're going to be moving a little bit, so we're not just going to be leaning on it the whole time. So you could use a cushion, but a little secret or a little tip that I give the guys in our class, because some of our clients have got knee replacements. We've even got a lady that's got steel knees, so she's like a bionic woman. So rather than having the knee joint on the cushion, because if you have the knee joint on the cushion, you're still impinging, you're still getting onto the patella, the kneecap, and that could be where your issue is. So what you actually want to do is put the shin bone on the cushion, okay? So then when you put the shin bone on the cushion, you take the weight off of the knee. And so you might have this very, very light sensation of your knee touching the floor, but actually the weight is in the cushion. So you could do that on both knees if you've got knee issues on both sides. Alternatively, if you just cannot be on your knees at all, you want to do what we call the morning routine, and you could just focus on the flexing. I might do a little video and see if I can snip it into the top corner of this video. You want to do a flex, rolling down, and it's just to warm up the spine before we come into the next exercise, so we don't really need to overthink it. Otherwise, you can just jump to the next exercise if it's the end of the day and it's not too early. So what we're going to do here, if your wrists hurt, so often people find this position too much on the wrist, so where the hand and the arm's 90 degrees. So you can take your hands a little bit wider and then turn them out so that your fingers are pointing outwards. That can provide a lot of relief as well. Or, so you can see my mat is quite thick. Perhaps if you've got a thinnish book or a little pillow, like you could even use, if you've got any Pilates blocks, you could even have a little block there. Anything that's just lifting, giving you space for your fingers between your fingers and the wrist and the floor. That can also help. That really helps a load of our clients. But like I said, we're not going to be here long. We're not going to, so it's just, we're actually going to move through a few positions. Okay. So we're going to go through what we call the 3-in-1. So have your knees directly under your hips. And if you can, wrists and elbows under the shoulders, or just slightly out a little bit wider so that you have that relief in the wrists. Now glance at your feet quickly. If you can see your feet, they're not in the right position. So sometimes people might have their feet too wide or too in. So just bring your feet so they're in alignment with your knees. And then if you had to peep through your legs, you wouldn't be able to see your feet. Okay? Often what happens in this position, people just let their lower back hang. So I want you to pull your tummy in as though you're trying to get your belly button to kiss your spine. And then think of the tailbone and send your tailbone to the back of your knees. But we actually just want to stop at this point where we have a flat back. So if you're not sure, go and do this against a mirror or in front of a mirror. So we're in that flat back position. So the ribs are hugged in, the tummy's hugged in, and then that tailbone is just slightly towards the back of your legs. Push the floor away from you. So imagine there's a candle burning underneath your chest. Because often what people will do is just hang in those shoulder joints. So push the floor away, push it away, push it away. And that's already helping to strengthen the stabilizing muscles in your shoulder joints. So this is quite a good exercise, really. And then send your gaze towards the front of the mat, and that's going to help keep your neck and your spine in a straight line. From here, just sink your bum towards the heels. Now again, if you've got knee issues, take your hands a little bit further forward and just go to wherever there's no pain. So for you, it might be here. It really doesn't matter. Then we're going to come to the all fours position again. So if you were in this position, you'd be there. Take the hands a little bit more forward, and then bring your shoulders above the hands. So now you can see my hips have moved. Squeeze your bum cheeks and start to send your hips down. And then shoulders are going to pull back as though you're trying to squeeze them together. Lift your heart and lift the head. So really keep your bums engaged with this and keep pushing away. So I'm just going to exaggerate what we don't want. We don't want to be hanging there. So I've got no muscles working. It's just bones doing the job. So you want to squeeze your bum. These glutes are working. And you push in the floor away and your heart is lifted. On the next exhale, you're going to squeeze your tummy to your back, and then back to your all fours, and then back to that child position. So the 3-in-1. Position 1 is this one. Position 2, a little movement forward with the hands. Push the floor away, squeeze your tissue, keep squeezing, keep squeezing, keep squeezing. And then you're going to get nice Jean-Claude Van Damme bums as well. And then squeeze your belly as you come back up again. So just work through a few of these. Now for those of you that haven't got knee issues, you haven't got wrist issues, and you are a little bit stronger, you can even try moving the hands a little bit closer towards you, because it does make the shoulders work in a completely different position. So now if you have a fused lower back, or maybe you're just really stiff in the front of your legs, or whatever reason, there can be 1,000,001, and you squeeze your bum. For some of you, this is as far as you'll be able to get it. So you might not be able to get the hips that low, you might be up there. But you still want to try and lift your heart, and then take it back in again. So remember, we all have a different body. We all have a different spine. We've all got different mobilities. This is what I always say to people in the class. Don't look at the person next to you. The most important part of this move is that you really squeezing that bum, because that bum is supporting your lower back. So let's make this the last one. Click. And then come back to all fours. Good. So that was the 3-in-1. That's a nice little one to do if you just feel stiff in your back, and you can just jump on the floor if you haven't got any of the knee and hip, elbow issues, just to loosen that off. So the next thing we're going to do is called the Swan, and it's bringing the spine into extension. So extension is when we lean backwards. Now, if you have big boobs, you may want to put a block under your head, number one, to help you create space to breathe, but also so that the neck is in alignment. Because if you have got bigger boobies and you don't put anything, so if you imagine I've got big boobs, your head will be in that position. So just having a block under the forehead just allows you some space to breathe and to keep that neck nice and tall, long. Now, I haven't got big boobs, so I'm just going to use a little cushion there. So with the Swan, we're going to have the legs a little bit wider and the feet are turned out. So you might recognize a part of this move, like it's, some people know it as Cobra, but it's taught in a different way than the Cobra's taught. So the legs will be turned out. So the knee joints want to be pointing outwards. And that helps to switch on some of these bum muscles, and again helps to support the lower back. Where you have your hands is going to be entirely up to how much you can move your lower back, how much mobility is in there, shoulder strength, arm strength. So we're going to go through how to pick the right place for you. And then you'll get used to, where to know to put your arms. So first thing, I'm just going to demonstrate what we're trying to avoid, because we get very fixated with trying to have the biggest moves, and that's a little bit of ego coming in. So what we're trying to avoid is being up in this position, okay? Some people have hypermobility in the lower back, and this is fine for them, but generally it's not fine. So if you feel like you're crushing your lower back, then guess what? You probably are. To be safe, and for what most people need, and this is more than enough, is belly button on the floor. So you can see a completely different height. Now, I don't feel like I'm crushing my back, and I'm still getting the benefits of bending the spine back with the extension. Okay, so that's the shape that we're after. So you can experiment, and I will give you a minute just to have a play. The further forward your arms, the lower you're going to come up. And if you bring the arms a little lower, a little higher, you're going to come up. So some people are really tight or really stiff in the front of the hips. They're not going to have that space to lift. You might have some of your spine fused. You're not going to be able to come up. I've got one lady who's got the whole lower back fused, so she has to have little baby ones. So just take a moment and just experiment with yourself. And your elbows want to be touching the floor, so just be mindful that the elbows don't lift up to there. Good. So if you're not sure, safer is hands more forward. Right, so pop your head down for a moment and just give your bum a little wiggle. And then bring attention to the belly button. And pull your tummy away from the mat. So I like to imagine there's a little ladybird walking underneath my belly button. Now send your pubic bone into the floor. And that's going to help to keep the hips still. Now breathe in and engage your back muscles and start to lift the chest off of the floor without using your hands. But you want to keep the head looking down, your face down, so that you're not pinching the back of the neck there. When you can't go anymore, I want you to just engage the floor. So just start to push gently into the floor. But as you start to push into the floor, can you bring your elbows towards each other? Okay, so notice what happens when you bring your elbows towards each other versus elbows out to the side. You might feel how elbows comes together. There's more space around the neck, and the shoulders drop down the back. And then you gently start to lift. So again, my intention is not to have the biggest move, it's just to bend the spine. Elbows are staying bent, shoulders are down, chin is slightly down, and then I'm going to bring myself back down again.
Once you're down, let it all go, have a little wiggle. So belly button pulls away from this mat, pubic bone goes into the floor. I'm engaging all those back muscles to try and lift my chest off of the floor. Shoulders are going down the back, and then gently pushing into the floor as I draw the elbows towards each other. My gaze is towards the front, so if you think I've got this little cushion, that's where I'm keeping my gaze. So the glutes are active, my bum is active, and then relax back down again. And then give it a little wiggle. So often people do cramp in the legs or the feet with this. So if you do cramp, don't worry, it's completely normal. I can feel my right leg is going. So belly button pulls in, pubic bone. Use your back muscles to where you can't go anymore, and then gently push the floor away. And then relaxing back down again. Good. Lovely. So that's called the swan. Now we're going to add a little movement into it. And we call this the cocked swan. Don't know why everyone starts laughing in the class. Such a child. So if you think of how a dog cocks its leg, we're after this. So you can have a play. For today I'm going to keep it low, but if you've got a few extra minutes after the class, you can always come and take it higher and just experiment with the different angle of the leg. So this leg is slightly bent. Now what I want you to really focus on, so my right leg is coming out, I want you to focus on this right hip bone. So what I'm going to try and do through the whole movement is keep this hip bone touching the floor. Okay, so it's just about there. I can squeeze my finger under there. So even though it's not touching the floor, my brain is still going to be sending signals to that to touch the floor, which means I'm still innervating all those muscles. Okay, and then we're just going to do the same move that we did before, the swan. So hands are on the floor. The other leg is still turned out. Belly button pulls in, pubic bone to the mat. So again, like my right hip is not touching the floor, but I'm really trying my absolute best to get it to touch the floor. I'm squeezing the back muscles to bring the chest up. When I can't go anymore, gently pushing. And if this is your first one, just take your time with it. Especially if you've got sciatica, you really want to listen to what your body is telling you. And then bringing yourself back down. Albeit this isn't a very comfortable position for most people. Have a little wiggle. Belly button pulls in, pubic bone to the mat. Using those back muscles and the glutes to try and lift the body as far as I can. Gently push down, hug your elbows in, relax the shoulders, gaze to the floor in front of you. And then relaxing down. Shall we do one more? I think that's 4. And you'll soon learn that Pilates teachers can't count. So, belly button, pubic bone. Engage. Gently push the floor away. And then relaxing down again. Good. And then we'll bring that leg in. So just have a little shake. So having the legs and turn out, now I'm going to go to my left leg, and I want you to see if you notice anything. So can you see how high this hip is? So compared to my right hip, my left hip is about 3 fingers off of the floor. So I can't touch the floor with that hip, but again, in my brain, I'm trying and I'm trying and I'm trying, so I'm still actually working the muscles. So don't worry if the bones don't touch, just keep trying. So belly button pulls in, engage the back. I feel so wonky on this side, and then start to push up. And then relaxing it back down again. A little wiggle. Belly button, pubic bone. So I'm trying and I'm trying to get that left hip to touch the floor.
And that's it's lifting because there's some muscles in that hip joint that are a little bit tighter. So they're not as flexible as the other side. And then relax down.
So how does it feel for you? Have you noticed that you've got one side that's a little bit different? Belly button, pubic bone.
Squeeze and lift. So the more you can wrap your elbows in and drop your shoulders, the more you're also working the back of your arms. So that's a double bonus. That's working those bingo wings. Shall we make this the last one? I don't know about you, but I'm 45 and always been really active in my life. And we'll relax that one down and then just come out of it for a minute. And I just woke up one day and I had bingo wings and wrinkles on my knees. I mean, where no one tells you, it just happens overnight, do they? So, now what I want you to do is pick the side that you felt was the most challenging. So I'm going to do my left leg because that one I can feel is miles off the floor. You pick your side, which you think is the hardest one. Now, if you're not sure, go with the side that felt unnatural or it didn't feel right or the one that you don't want to do again. So there will be one side. And if you definitely don't think you have, then we'll do 4. So then you'll just do 2 on each side. But generally there will be some kind of imbalance. So like I said, I'm going to take my left leg out again.
Dropping the head down. So belly button, pubic bone. And then engage the bum as much as you can. Lift the back. And then gently push the hands into the floor. Hug your elbows in. Drop the shoulders. Give those bingo wings a little workout as well. So now in that position, I'm just focusing on that hip, trying to push it down, push it down, push it down. And then relax, have a shake. Belly button, pubic bone. Lifting, pushing into the hands. And then take it back down. So for those of you that have no idea or you think it's the same, you can switch legs. And we'll just do a couple more. Belly button, pubic bone. Our clients absolutely hate these. But you know what? It's often the ones that you hate that make the most difference. Joseph Pilates has a saying, what you don't like, do more of. Or should I say he had a saying? Good. And then the last one. Or have we done extras? Told you I can't count. And then relax it down. Oh, good. So bring your hands under your shoulders. So you can either push yourself up. And then if you've got any issues with your knees, you can come into a seated position and hug your legs. Or you can take a child pose. Oh, wow, that feels so amazing on the lower back. So if you've got issues with your knees, just come into a seated position, and that's just as nice. And then just give yourself a little hug. Good. And then relax. So that was a lovely little sciatica class. I can feel that nice on the lower back. It feels like it's had a good stretch. So there will be plenty more sciatica classes, so just search the library. And if you can do one of these little classes, especially if you do suffer and your sciatica can get quite bad or you have regular flare-ups, pick a little sciatica class to do every day, because obviously the key is trying to get your body moving as often as possible rather than just a 15 or 20 minute class once a week. That's why I try and keep these nice and short so that you have more opportunity to fit them in. Anyhow, have a lovely day and I'll see you soon on the mats. Take care.